Hello, brothers and sisters. This is Sabata with the Equatoria Advocacy Foundation. I'm the director for resource mobilization. Today, the Equatoria Advocacy Foundation would like to discuss with you some of the missteps that the cadres who have fought in this SPLM revolutionary movement have taken, those missteps that have been taken by those cadres in constituting what I would say failure to build what is called a republic of South Sudan. Now, as I am coming to explain this, I would first of all want to make sure that you, brothers and sisters, understand what a republic means. When country gets constituted under what is called a republic, that means the power of governance of the people of that country is founded on what is called people. And what that means then, by many theories of government or by many concepts of governance, when power gets founded on the people, that means power of the agenda to run the government is based on either a parliament or an assembly. That is the chamber of the government whose seats are filled by representatives of what is called the people. That is, people elect representatives to go and represent them by occupying those seats in that chamber of the government. It can be called an assembly, or it can also be called a parliament. That is what a republic is. And right now, as you might realize, that the term that is referred to define our country is the Republic of South Sudan. Republic of South Sudan. But are we really a republic? No, we are not a republic. Because right now, power is not centered in what is called parliament. Because you, the people of South Sudan, right now, by constitution, you are supposed to elect your representatives to go and occupy the seats in the parliament. And that is where power is concentrated as far as drawing the agenda and the direction for which the country should be running. And then the executive branch would eventually then come and execute the agenda. But this is not how we are operating right now. We are operating under something called an oligarch. An oligarch means only a small group of people. You can refer to them as elites. They take control of power, and all the sectors or the governing administrative structures, including all the other institutions, are controlled by only very few elites who make decisions, you see, on how governance should operate, okay? Not people's representative. So that is an oligarch. So basically in South Sudan, we are operating as an oligarch, not as a republic, even though we are called Republic of South Sudan. And it's basically a misrepresentation of facts, who we are actually. We are supposed to be Republic of South Sudan. And if we are going to be Republic of South Sudan, then our system of governance should have been organized such that power would be based on the hands of what is called representatives of the people. And now I'm here to discuss some of the missteps that the cadres of the SPLM had taken to basically build that Republic of South Sudan. In order for me to clarify this, let me just remind you that when the comprehensive peace agreement was signed back in Naivasha in Nairobi, rather in Naivasha in Kenya, not Naivasha, Nairobi. When it was signed in Naivasha, I don't know whether it was signed in Naivasha or Nairobi, but I know the comprehensive peace agreement was basically finalized in Naivasha, probably signed also in Naivasha in Kenya. So it was signed on January 9th, 2005. And it provided, the terms provided that in 6 years' time, the people of South Sudan eventually will go for a referendum to choose whether they want to remain with the North or they want to separate. Something similar to the Juba Conference of 1947. Now, when that was signed in January 9th, 2005, 6 years then will bring us to January 9th, 2011. This is when the 6 years will put us to January 9th, 2011, yes. And this is when the referendum would take place. And eventually, yes, the referendum later took place between the 9th to the 15th of January 2011. That was when the people came and decided that they want to be separate from Sudan. But over this 6 years period of time, there are some important things to be noted. Number one, it's very important to mention that the peace deal was reached between the SPLM and the NCP, the National Congress Party of al-Bashir. Now, what happened is they, of course, formed what was called a semi-autonomous state for the South Sudan, which was called Government of South Sudan at that time. And there was an interim constitution that was established to basically run the government of South Sudan, of which then the interim constitution did have what is called a president, and the president of the South Sudan at the time was also the first vice president of Bashir of Sudan, the entire Sudan. That was how that government was organized, and it was called the Government of National Unity. Now, Gereng was the one who signed, and of course Gereng died, and SPLM had to come with a replacement, and they came with Care. And around April, we also know that there was an election for the position of the president of the government of South Sudan. That was that semi-autonomous region, had an election, of which then also Kir was elected, and of course we were still one. Sudan was not, South Sudan was not separated. And right following that, the other important event that I would like to mention is around October, that is just, 6 months following the election of Kir as the president of the government of South Sudan, that semi-autonomous region. 6 months following that election, all the South Sudanese, and I think that is very important that you want to start catching up from here, all the South Sudanese political parties, there were about 23 to 26 of them, came together, convened in what was called the Southern South Dialogue. And let me see if I can pull something out of it from here. And they reached, and first of all, the reason for coming together as political parties at the time is because they have realized that the people of South Sudan eventually were going to vote for separation. And they want to prepare how to run the country following separation. And they held the meeting in October 2010, and they have come with very important resolution that I think we should start catching up from here. And that resolution provided that if the people of South Sudan vote for secession, then they will reconvene again within 1 month following the date the election results would be announced, so that then they would put together certain things that they have mentioned that I am going to read to you right now. And let me read so that it will not just be something that I am pretty much kind of like alleging, but something that is justifiable. So let me go to my messages here. Come on, that's one of the problems that I have always. I don't prepare things early, and then when I try to pull up documents here and there, then I tend to fail to bring them up. And I think that document that I'm looking for here is called Communique for the South. Hold on. I don't know why this happens to me all the time. Okay, right here. Okay, it's called Final Communique of Southern Sudan Parties Conference on a Referendum, 18 October 2010. And the most important things that I would like you to note here is when I scroll all the way to a point, it says, in the event that separation is the winning option in the referendum, this conference shall be reconvened as National Constitutional Conference within 1 month from the announcement of the result of the referendum to do the following. So these parties would want to reconvene to do the following. One, they want to carry out a constitutional review on the interim constitution of South Sudan 2005. You remember when the SPLM and the National Congress Party reached this comprehensive peace agreement that was signed in Niavasha, they kind of formulated what was called the interim constitution, which basically governed South Sudan, the government of South Sudan during this period of 6 years of the government of national unity. The second thing they wanted to do was to draft a permanent constitution for the new independent and sovereign state of South Sudan. Remember, this is presumably that if South Sudan secedes, then the reason for reconvening, the second reason is because they want to form a permanent constitution. Of course, there is no country that runs without a constitution, even though it looks like South Sudan right now wants to operate without a constitution. I don't know why. The third is to discuss and agree on an interim broad-based national government under the current president of the government of South Sudan, H.A. Salva Kiir Mayardit, to assume office as of 10 July 2011. This government will be charged inter alia, I don't know what inter alia meant, with the duty to carry out the general election for the Constituent Assembly that will pass the permanent constitution. And that was one of the huge missteps that they did, to agree on forming what is called a broad-based government under the oversight of President Kiir, and I don't know why they decided to do that. Just because Kiir was elected in April 2010 during the government of national unity, if the country goes separate, Kiir will not be legitimate president unless he gets elected. But one of the missteps that the cadres of the SPLM revolutionary movement did was to think of even forming a broad-based government under supervision of Kiir Mayardit. that is a misstep, because the right thing to do was, I would clarify. Let me continue on what they here are saying, what they are going to do after they reconvene. Decide on the length of the interim period necessary to carry out the general elections for the Constituent Assembly. Number 4, formation of leadership forum. South Sudan Political Parties Leaders Forum. They want to create a forum, I guess, where these political parties would convene and basically decide on matters of the state. You see, when you look at their mindset, they want to focus on political parties running agenda of a country, and this is one of the huge missteps of what is called a republic. Remember, I defined to you what a republic earlier is. A republic is when power goes to the people, and that basically is through an assembly or parliament. So instead of these people thinking of having a parliament that will eventually have concentrated powers now to run agenda of a country, so that if there will be laws that will register political parties, then the political parties that will be registering would basically come and try to infiltrate what is called the assembly, try to grab as much seats possible, so that eventually they would try to table their agenda on what is called the floor of the parliament. All right? But that doesn't seem to be what clicks in their minds, because if we are going to be having what is called a republic, power really has to be based on the parliament. Power cannot be dispatched off these political parties directly for governance. This is never what is called republic. Republic don't run like that. All right, but this is basically seem to be the ideology that the cadres who have fought the SPLM movement seem to be having, you see. And the other thing is, they also talked about, and I think it's somewhere way down, they talked about building institutions, all right? And to build what is called governing institutions or administrative institutions, those administrative institutions or governing institutions should be built by an assembly or a parliament. It cannot be built by political parties or a number of political parties who have come together and would want to build political parties. And it is because of that kind of an ideology, that's why you see these SPLM political cadres think, or they seem to get that sense of entitlement that they want to institute institutions that would run the country under oversight of the SPLM. And yet SPLM is just a political party. And this is where I think ideologically these cadres who have fought in the SPLM movement don't seem to be fit in building what is called a republic. They will fail constantly, you know. And you, the people, I'm sure many of you guys have already gone out, studied political science courses. So there are some sociological courses where you take so many classes from political science and actually builds people in what's called the field of arts, all right, to make them understand how governance are supposed to be managed, you see, especially in what is called a republic or democratic societies, because it's usually in what is called republic where you find democratic form of governance, because power is based on the people. You know, when you talk of democracy, you're saying power to the people. When you're talking of the republic, power based on the people, you see. So basically, you young people, you have gone out, you have educated yourself enough. Watch the ideology of these cadres who have fought in the SPLM movement. They will not take you anywhere, all right? Again, I don't want to get off my topic. I want to continue with mentioning out some of the missteps that the cadres have taken. Now, in 2011, January, it came so fast, election happened, all right? Election happened, the country came to exist. South Sudan came to exist. Now, when South Sudan came to exist, the only things that are legitimate in South Sudan at the time when it came to exist are, one, the people, okay? The people, the nation, all right? And it's a diverse nation, constitutes of so many tribes, all right? This is social fact. The other thing is what is called the geopolitical demographic of what is called South Sudan, the map itself. It was real. It had a mist spot, that is the area of Abyei. That line over there has not been concluded because it was not clear whether Abyei is north or south when the country was declared. All right, but the demographics of South Sudan, the country, the map, is real. The people are real. Those are social fact. All right, and SPLM as a movement kind of withers off, and would say the political organization SPLM existed as a political party, but what gives them the power to assume governance at the time is probably the fact that there are certain protocols that remained unsolved, and that gives them the mandate to continue with the NCP on the issues of the border and there are two others. I think it was the water, the body of the Nile, and I think something to do with the people whose properties remained in the north, something like that. But anyways, that gave the SPLM the ground or the legitimacy, at least, to hang around somewhere, cling somewhere close to power, so that they finish off the terms, the provisions that were amalgamated into what was called the interim constitution. Now I'm referring to it, something that is of the past, because now a country has been born. Now, the most important thing that they could have done was, first of all, to reconvene, and it was a very good idea to reconvene within 1 month. But then when they reconvene in that 1 month, then something that should be focused on was to build what was called the platform of the people, because we want to build a republic. Remember, I defined what a republic is. To build the platform of the people, and that was the parliament. That was the most important thing. Now, if the political parties came together voluntarily as caretakers, that was good, because they are the only organized political action groups that were in the country at the time. So they took upon themselves to organize in order to develop that assembly. That's fine. Will the assembly be legitimate or not? Eventually, we will see how to legitimize that assembly. But they will build the assembly. Once the assembly gets built, then the country should go through a formal process by which they will then legitimize the assembly, so that the assembly then starts developing its responsibilities of putting together what is called the institutions. The institutions to govern shouldn't be put under the oversight of SPLM, because SPLM has always been a party, a political party. The governing structures should be something that would be put together by what is called the parliament. All right. Let me give you an example. With where I'm living right now in the United States of America, it operates pretty much as a republic. The United States of America is a republic, okay, and it is the Congress that creates many governing structures, okay, and the Constitution also gives some powers to the judiciary branch and also to the executive branch to create some administrative structures. But then the Congress has so much powers, has wider or broader powers to create what is called administrative structures, including when you hear things like the Federal Drug and Food commission, all these, what is called the chamber of the commissions, are created by the Congress, and then Congress gives them what is called delegated powers to carry out certain tasks, because Congress has what is called very broad powers, because it is a republic. So that is something that we could have done. We could have actually built the parliament and then give the parliament a very broad responsibility now to build the administrative sectors and also the governing structures of the country. The Congress could also put together a committee that would eventually be running what is called the military sector, and that would be one of the most important things, because once the parliament has a committee that gets to order or have authority over the military sector, we will be in position to build pretty much a sector of the military in South Sudan that would pretty much comprise of all the faces of the tribes in South Sudan. Because look at it this way, because the parliament will be people who are going to be sent in from people's constituents, and they are going to be responsible with what is called budgeting money of the military and even paying the military. Just like in the United States of America here, military gets paid by the Congress. You see, they budget for the military, they pay the money of the military, they even declare wars. You see, they declare war. Presidents can declare war only under certain circumstances, but when the president does that here in the United States of America, then there is a period of time, I think it is 130 days for Congress to then kind of approve that war, or if the Congress fails to approve that war within that period of time, then the president will have to take off the idea of that war, because eventually the Congress approves the money for war. You see, here in the United States of America, because this is a republic. So if we were going to be, if the SPLM cadres were really going to build a republic, they shouldn't have actually missed those big steps to give power to the people through the parliament. You see, why am I holding this kind of discussion, brothers and sisters? It's very important that you the people, be knowledgeable of how you want to be, whether under a republic or whether under a dictatorial regime, and you should understand how a dictatorial regime functions. And do you really want to be under a dictatorial regime? It's very important to understand those aspects, because once you understand them, then the cadres who have come to assume power over you would eventually be led by you. You would pretty much direct. You will take the constitution. You will say, we are a republic. Power is supposed to be in our hands. We are supposed to have these representatives. We are supposed to send them from our constituents. We are supposed to send them from our states. They should have those powers given by the constitution. You allow the constitution to function. You allow recognize what is called governing structures or governing institutions to start operating, all right, in order to build what is called a republic. But unfortunately, this is not what has happened. We know very well that the SPLM has betrayed the people of South Sudan. Kiir ended up not even calling for what was suggested. That is, the South-South dialogue did not happen. He went ahead and formed a committee that ended up putting basically looking through, reviewing the interim constitution that was built, that was established by the CPA, and made some amendments and produced a transitional constitution for the South Sudan. A constitutional then eventually that is undergoing some repairs right now. So basically that is how Kiir, the chairman of the SPLM, and the SPLM cadres basically at that time just kind of tossed the chance of creating a republic that way. They ignored the meeting of South-South dialogue. They went ahead and started, SPLM started building, probably supervising institutions that they wanted to build on their own desires, institutions that ended up with what is called a military sector or a security sector that is highly tribalized, you know, and is basically not well trained, you see, because there are no clear policies that were laid down, and eventually Parliament ended up with no powers, you know, and end up becoming a rubber stamp parliament, and we end up where we are right now, an oligarch, where a group of people ended up ruling, because they themselves even ended up disagreeing. Starting from 2012, they started disagreeing with themselves. You've heard through all these disagreements when some of the SPLM cadres were sent out to go to the people to thank them and to ask them whether SPLM is doing fine. They all came with their report saying SPLM have lost direction, and they started rambling around themselves. A group calling for reforms within the SPLM, a group holding up, building militia on their own, and some of the militia went against the tribe retaliated, and people went for a civil war. So the entire thing went into a mess. So you can actually see, I hope I have clarified exactly how the SPLM kind of went away, I don't know whether it was deliberately or ignorantly, from building what was supposed to be a republic for South Sudan, of which people could be enjoying today, to creation of the mess that we are in right now, brothers and sisters. Basically, the topic of today is to highlight to you how the cadres of the SPLM Revolutionary War struggle ended up failing to build a republic for you. And now the challenge is on your hand. It is you to figure out how you would want to build a republic for your own. And your happiness will only come when you start living in a country that is basically based on a parliamentary system where power is in the hands of the people, or else we'll always be hanging around in this mess for a period of time, and a group of people becoming very frustrated. You know, eventually we might end up seeing the country disintegrating into pieces if it continues the same way it's going. Brothers and sisters, this is a message from Equatoria Advocacy Foundation. God bless you, and until we meet again in some other discussions, stay blessed and stay safe from COVID-19.